if we go back a couple of weeks, I was finishing up on the two-handed light attack. So it's time to move on to the two-handed heavy attack. And what you're seeing here is the blocking pass for this animation. So what am I trying to do in the blocking pass? I am trying to get all of the key poses. I do it in stepped mode. And I'm also trying to get a basic sense of timing. But one thing we can do is we can take a look here at some of the key poses that I wanted. First off, we have our idle pose that we created way back in the beginning, right? I'll just move through a few of them here. Frame 6, I think, is a key pose because what I'm trying to do is compensate for the momentum of the axe as he's swinging it around by driving his hips backwards. So I'm trying to compensate for this motion by doing the equal and opposite reaction with that motion. And then if we look at frame 20, what I'm trying to do here is this cool, C curve that we have going on in the spine, because I'm going to take that opportunity to show a change in shape when the axe swing is done on frame 30 with a reverse C shape. And then in a similar vein, say frame 44, as he's pulling the axe back, what I'm trying to show here is help show weight with the axe, because what we've got is stretched arms, a curve in the back. It's taking this guy a lot of effort to pull this axe back. And if we see that, it kind of feels heavier. We combine that with timing in making that axe, start back slowly at first and then eventually, kicking in. So those are some of the basic poses that I really wanted to work out here, in addition to getting a general sense of timing in the blocking pass. Next, we move on to the breakdown pass, and what you're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do in the breakdown pass, is try to get the animation down to animating on twos or animating on ones in really fast sequences or complex parts of the animation. But more than that, it's about defining how I'm getting from key pose to key pose. Those are what the breakdown poses are. So in this animation, one of the really important things is defining how this axe moves around him as he's swinging that axe around. That's from frame 0 to frame 14. So one thing I can do to ensure that I get a smooth action is to make sure that the arc looks good. And I have one of my favorite arc tracker tools. I'll put the link to it in the description. I have a little ball here that I've put on the end of the axe. You can see it moves with the axe. And what I can do is select that ball and add it as an object in the arc tracker and create this motion trail. Now, this is going to be for the whole entire shot. That's not what I need to see, so I can override that. I only want to see from 0 to 14. So, like I was saying, I want to make sure that that axe is traveling in a nice, smooth arc, and that's what I'm seeing here. And the arc tracker tool here really helps with that. And I think you can see if I actually select the axe, you'll see that a lot of this is on ones. I've got keys on ones here, just because I needed to keep that axe scraping the ground. So that's one example there. Let's take a look here at frame 9. Here's something that's kind of interesting. I've got the hips, or the center of mass, pushed over screen left here because it's kind of being dragged by the weight of that axe. Now he's trying to compensate and get that center of mass back to screen right, and swinging the axe that way helps that happen too. But on frame 9, I believe he is probably the furthest screen left. And then another area that I think is important is, say, frame 24. What I'm trying to do here, and when I get to the next refinement pass, I do need to clean this up because this looks a little goofy. But what I'm trying to do here is focusing on the axe. I'm trying to keep that axe as close to the ground as I can for as long as I can. Because what that's going to do is that's going to help reinforce that this axe is heavy, and it's also going to help reinforce on the hit how impactful that hit is. And that's the hit on frame 30. So if you take a look starting at frame 24, it's just starting in slow increments to move. If you look at the head of the axe, it's moving in slow increments, and then the closer and closer we get to strike, it starts moving in faster or larger increments. And then finally, it's the ground. So that hopefully what we have is an impactful strike. And then the last thing I wanted to kind of gloss over here is starting at frame 44, how he gets from pulling this axe back to the idle position. Just straight as the crow flies doesn't really work. What he actually needs to do is he needs to pull this axe to the right, or to screen left, his right, before he can settle back left. So what I've got him doing, you can see he pulls that axe in past his right hip. His hips actually move this way just a little bit until he can get a hold with his left hand on the top end of that axe, and then pull the axe back into position and settle. So those are the kind of body mechanics things that I'm thinking about in the breakdown process. So the next step would be to do some refining passes on this animation and just kind of clean up some of the poses that just don't feel right. Start adding in details, things like the fingers, start how they move, maybe add in some noise, or in other words, you know, you don't want this thing to be perfect and smooth and robotic, you know, give it a little bit of an organic kind of feel to it. Make sure that there isn't anything popping. And then finally, when that is finished, I'd want to go back to this shot, which started the whole thing. I want to do a combo attack where there are 3 attacks and each is heavier than the last. And now, you know, watching this that I put up several months ago, wow, this is really boring. So I need to come up with something that's a lot more fun. All right, I guess that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.